Most health professionals recommend that children play outside. But outside isn't always the safest place for children to be. There are all kinds of ways for a child to get hurt when left unattended. But beyond the average bumps and bruises, parents must also consider the predators that might be lying in wait. Lions, tigers, and bears are certainly something to contend with. But every parent knows that the biggest threat that children often face is other humans. My name is Brienne, and I'm the host and creator of Among the Dirt and Trees, a show where we explore true crime cases that occur out in nature. In today's episode, we're going to discuss a missing persons case from June of this year. I know this is a fairly recent one, but I think it comes with a good lesson for all of us, so I wanted to share it with you. For this episode, I'm going to hold off on revealing the name of the victim in the story until the end. The victim in this case was either a 3- or 4-year-old boy, depending on which news story you ask. On a side note, I think it's really interesting how these minor details get lost, so here's your friendly reminder that many news articles are just a written game of telephone when it comes to true crime. On June 3rd of this year, a family was devastated when their young child disappeared from the family home. At the time of his disappearance, he was out playing in the yard with the family's dog. Like most parents do when their kids are in their own yard, they believed that he was safe. Unfortunately, he disappeared. At the time, it was unclear what happened. Was he abducted? Did he wander off on his own? Did the dog eat him and dispose of his body? No one knew. His parents called police and a search began. The big concern with this child's disappearance, aside from him disappearing, of course, was the fact that their yard connected to some pretty intense wilderness. The area was known to be frequented by mountain lions and bears, so if he was alone, this was absolutely not a safe place for a child to be. Police pulled out all the stops to find him. They searched using ATVs, drones, boats, and trained dogs, hoping to find a trace of him. They followed his trail up a nearby path into the woods. At least that is what they believed. The trail that they were following had a bunch of rocks that were clearly turned over leading up to it. Police believe that it was this child who turned over those rocks. Now, for some of us that might seem a little odd. Why was this child turning over rocks? Was he leaving a clear trail for police to follow as his abductor led him away? Well, the official theory is actually a lot more innocent. This little boy happened to absolutely love bugs. Police believe that the overturned rocks were actually his attempts to locate some bugs. When the trail went cold, the panic began to set in. There are so many reasons that this child was at risk. The wilderness comes with risks of its own, like the natural predators stalking the area. Of course, as darkness took over, it would only get more dangerous. Everyone hoped that someone would find this little boy, but that was a risk all its own. What if the wrong person found him and decided to harm him? As more time passed, a new threat moved in. A horrible storm hit the area. There was rain, low visibility, darkness, and dropping temperatures. During the storm and the night, temperatures dropped into the low 40s. Everyone was afraid for this child, knowing that his chances of succumbing to the elements were really high. To make matters worse, the weather completely ruined their chances of finding him. Valuable evidence was washed away, one drop of rain at a time, and the likelihood of finding him was washed away with it. 2 full days passed. A local family went into the woods to check on their cabin. This cabin was over 2 miles away from where the little boy disappeared, and ordinarily, it was empty. By chance, the owners of the cabin decided to drop by to check on their generator. This is a routine action to make sure it's there if they need it before the season gets too cold. When they walked out back behind the shed to check on the generator, they heard something unexpected. The voice of a child. Now, I don't know about you, but if I were one of the owners of this cabin, I would without question think that I just dropped into a horror film. They're out in the woods, cabin, middle of nowhere. I would be terrified to open the door of that shed. But these brave individuals did. Inside the shed was the missing little boy. Wide-eyed and terrified, but alive. The little boy is Ryker Webb. At only 3 or 4 years old, Ryker managed to travel over 2 miles through dense wilderness. When asked, he told police that he went on a long walk by himself and then got tired, so he had to stop. Ryker was understandably terrified when they found him, unsure of who these strange new people were. No one actually knows what happened while he was gone, but police suspect that he might have slept in a lawnmower bag for warmth. During the storm, this little child managed to find shelter and stay warm. He was hungry. He was thirsty. He was exhausted. But when police talked about him seeing his parents, he lit right up. Unfortunately, police didn't really have the same response. They were pretty interested in the circumstances surrounding his disappearance. Specifically, why it took his parents several hours to report him missing, and why they were provided with the wrong information regarding what he was wearing. As far as I can tell, people are also throwing major shade at this, and it's understandable. I didn't see anything that said that anything actually came of that. But the good news is that he was found alive and well. I know that in true crime, we focus a lot on missing person cases that are never solved or that have pretty terrible endings. But I think it's important to remember that the majority of missing persons cases are solved. A lot of the people that go missing are found, even when it seems like everything is against them. Every found person was realistically once a missing persons case. So I hope this serves as a reminder that as interesting as true crime is, sometimes we have to remember that not every case has a tragic ending. Not every missing person disappears forever or ends up dead. If you light up a room, you are not guaranteed to attract the wrong kind of attention. Your next door neighbor probably isn't a serial killer, and someone probably doesn't want to turn you into a skin suit. But then again, there is always a chance, isn't there? So, if you would like to discuss ways to remind yourself that there is still good in the world, stories with happy endings, or how not to react when a child's voice calls out from your shed that is supposed to be empty, feel free to contact me on Twitter or Instagram using the tag @datpod. Thanks, guys.